everybody, long time no see. Sully and I are back. It's that time of the month again where I tell you about my monthly favourites, what I have been loving and reading this month. I have not vlogged for the whole of June. There is no real good reason. I've just been enjoying life. I think there's been much more important things to be consuming in terms of content recently, and I just kind of enjoyed some time not thinking about vlogging, to be honest. But I'm going to start again tomorrow, so fingers crossed we'll be doing more videos soon. Let's get cracking onto my favourites. As usual, I will do my books at the end for the bookie people, but other than that, let's get going. My first favourite is my face masks. Now, in the UK, I don't know where you might be watching from, they haven't really been very strict about face masks. I know that you have to wear them on public transport, especially in London, but other than that, you know, people haven't really been wearing them. But I thought I'm going to stock up because if, you know, we follow on from the other countries late as usual, then no doubt we're going to need them. I found a little old lady on Facebook Marketplace who was just churning out mask after mask after mask in her little kitchen, and they were beautiful, and she laid them all out on a tray. So I went around to her house and I picked 5 of them. These are my favourite 2 that I thought I'd show you today. We've got a nice red spotty and a blue spotty. They fit really nicely and they're pretty comfortable. I just think they're quite nice, if I'm honest with you. They haven't got a filter, these ones. They're not like proper ones. I don't know the strength of face masks. These definitely aren't medical, but they're very cute and I love them nonetheless. My second favourite is going on walks. This month I really just haven't felt like doing exercise in terms of like running or HIIT workouts. Nothing is convincing me to exercise like that at the moment. However, I am enjoying walking, so I thought if I do maybe at least an hour's walk a day, then we're at least getting outside and getting our heart rate up. I've discovered some really nice walks around here, which I've been doing mostly with Mum. I've been walking my sister's dog as well, taking him on some walks. And I've just really been enjoying being outside and strolling and just taking in nature, not being on my phone. I've really been loving walking, as I think a lot of people in lockdown have as well. Walks. Okay, next up is watercolour paints. I think I started following someone on Instagram who was doing watercolour paintings, and I thought, you know what, I've used acrylic for years, but I haven't used watercolour since I was at school. So I went to my local The Works. I didn't want to spend too much on these because I didn't know I was going to love them so much, and I bought a pack of watercolour paints and some really tiny fine brushes. This particular Instagram account that I followed did kind of Islamic art, and I thought, well, to kick me off I might as well try something like that. So I started by doing this one, and then I kind of got obsessed, like I do, and was spending days on these, doing these kind of patterns like this. There's another one here framed, but I actually don't think it looks very nice, but we've got that regardless. I've got a little La Loteria cards. I think they're a kind of a Mexican Spanish thing. I just combined a couple of those there. And I've just been loving painting. I find it really therapeutic. I usually listen to a podcast while I'm painting and it keeps me going. If you didn't know, I do have like a design Instagram. I've forgotten what it is, so here I go looking. In case you're interested in the creative things I've been up to during lockdown, it's loveharriet.designs. I'll leave a link below if you want to go and have a look. I've also been doing this weird little scanny diary, which is not one of my favourites, but you'll see that if you go on there as well. But watercolour paints has been a favourite of mine. Next, following a very similar path, is I've been making homemade paper. Again, I saw this on Instagram and I was like, oh, I think I could really have a go at that. And using recycled paper, so Mum recently went through all of her business paperwork and got rid of everything that was like older than 10 years old. And she's been shredding them, so I was using those paper shreddings and I was creating paper. And with this paper I've been making homemade cards, birthday cards. Obviously, like, some of them were more unsuccessful than others. Some of them have got petals in them. This was very satisfying. I did this for about 3 days non-stop. I was outside wearing an apron, just like making paper all day long. This is very satisfying. Okie dokie, let's tick that one off. Where are we going next? Oh, okay, so when I was vlogging, you may have seen that I started knitting a rainbow scarf, and I think when I was knitting it only got to the green section. So we've got red, orange, yellow, green, and then I had to wait a really long time for my pink and blue wool to arrive. But it arrived, and I was desperate to finish this scarf as soon as it arrived, so I was knitting again in the garden in a bikini, which Mum thinks is hilarious. I decided to add some pom-poms onto the ends, and I happen to have a lot of blue wool, so I went for this. I am so obsessed with this, but the only thing is that I've made it so long that it's really heavy, and when I wear it, it pulls out thin like this and looks like a Doctor Who scarf, and that's not really what I was going for. I wanted it to be like thick, you know, and look thick. It really is long. So what I have done is today I went to Sainsbury's and I bought some spray starch. So I'm going to starch it in the hope that it will kind of hold its structure a little bit more and not go so thin on the ends when they pull down. But I am completely obsessed with this. I cannot wait for it to be cold enough for me to wear this, and it just brings me a lot of joy and makes me happy. So it's definitely one of the faves. Whoop. Okay, the time has come that I'm going to move on to books. I mentioned in my last video that my approach to the Black Lives Matter movement was to educate myself through reading, and I've done just that. I'm still going with it as well. I've still got a pile of books to read, but I've started, well, you know, here we go, we'll start. I'm actually going to get my Goodreads up because a couple of these feel like a really long time ago and I can't remember what I said about them at the time. The first book that I read in June is called Barracoon, the Story of the Last Slave. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I said this wasn't the book that I was expecting. The actual story of The Last Slave is about only a third of this book, and it's not a very big book anyway, so, you know, there's not much story in there. It's written phonetically, which I really struggled with and I found really exhausting, so I couldn't read very much of this book at a time. Some elements are really tragic, but there wasn't very much detail or explanation. I read this to gain awareness of the slave trade, but I don't really feel any more informed. On the back, actually, this book was described as that it talks about the horrors of being captured and the harrowing ordeal. I don't know if I read it wrong, but it didn't seem like that to me. I feel like all of the important details that people would probably read this book for were not included in it. Oh yeah, it's interesting, I'm not really sure. I think I read better books this month that helped me. Next, we take a little bit of a change in direction. This is Phil Beadle's How to Teach. I started this about a year ago when I started my teacher training, and for some reason I had about the last quarter of the book that I hadn't finished, so I decided that I would finally finish this. This book was brilliant. It made me laugh on the majority of pages, laugh out loud. I think Phil Beadle I don't know if he still teaches actually, I think he's an incredible teacher, and if you're doing a teacher training, or even if you are a teacher already, I would recommend reading this. It was a good one. The next book I read was Americana. I'll put a picture of the cover here because I've posted this to Lottie to read. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book actually. I said, really pleased that I read this. It's so relevant to the times today. It was very enjoyable and well written. I really liked the main character's story, and the story felt very real and highlighted racial issues very honestly. It was a great read. I think this, Americana, really reflects like the current times. It felt very modern and real, and I really enjoyed it for that. Next up, here we go, we're about to get onto some sticky territory. The next book I read is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. However, I had very difficult feelings towards this. When I was about to review this, I thought, you know what, I'm going to start some trouble by saying what I want to say. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go on Goodreads and have a little look at what the reviews already say, you know, what people have thought. And then I read a lot of views that reflected my own views, and I thought, no, you know what, I am going to write my honest review. So here we go. If you'd like to follow me on Goodreads, it's Harriet Murray. I said I thought long and hard about how to review this book and feel stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's very brilliant in raising some crucial questions and has made me seriously consider racism in the UK specifically. I learned a lot and I'm really pleased to have read it. However, the author has very, very strong opinions and is perhaps rightly filled with a lot of anger and hatred towards, it seems, all white people, as you may be able to distinguish from the title. The book is filled with stereotypes, generalisations and mentions of the royal we and they, and I'm in no way invalidating the author's experiences, but as a 26-year-old white, middle-class, straight, well-educated, hard-working, confident female who believes herself to be a feminist, I feel blamed and hated for overwhelming whiteness in the UK, which is unfair and makes me feel quite defensive. Which actually is what her whole book is about. To balance her valid arguments with positive changes within racism over the last few decades, and to reflect on celebrations of black people in the community and media would have been more fair. I get that that's not what the book is about, but it's a shame to point out all of the bad and not even mention the good. I'm not in denial, but I feel like whatever I say would be wrong. And this was interesting, and actually my review kind of started a couple of conversations with people that have also read it, some that agreed with me, some that disagreed with me, and that's all actually really good. You know, that's still people having a conversation about racism, which can't be a bad thing. So that was that one. Last but not least, again, a bit of a change of direction, I read Be Your Own Best Friend by Chessie King. Chessie King recently featured in my favourites videos, perhaps even just the last ones or the ones before. She is an influencer. My sister introduced me to her. I think she's brilliant. I bought this book for my sister. I thought she was in need of some encouragement and some self-love, and she read it very, very quickly and passed it on to me. I also read it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars as well. I said I read this in just under 24 hours. I'm a big fan of Chessie King and think she makes a great fake big sister and role model. As an adult, I do think this book would mostly benefit teenage girls about to hit or going through puberty. Nevertheless, some lovely words of friendship which stuck with me more than anything else. It's just fun. It's not a novel. It's full of artwork and photos and advice. So it's that kind of book. It's not, you know, pages of text. And you could read it in little chunks. It's in quite manageable chapters. I just so happened to have a free day where I finished it. But yeah, I would recommend this for any young adult looking for some advice and a pathway through life. And then I'm currently reading another book. I'm reading Girl, Woman, Other, but I will obviously review that in next month's favourites. I've nearly finished, but it didn't quite make the cut into this month's favourites. And that's everything. That's everything this month. I've actually had a really nice month. I think the weather is key to my happiness. I love it when it's sunny and I can sit in the garden and spend time reading or knitting or painting or listening to podcasts. I've just really enjoyed that. Today, on the other hand, has been very miserable and everyone in the house is feeling a little bit flat today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this favourites video, and I will see you very soon when my vlogs return. Hip hip hooray. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.